We should be live about now. And those of you who have been waiting for us to come, thank you very much for joining us here on the Voice of Job Seekers podcast. My name is Mark Anthony Dyson. You can just call me Mark. Even when you see me in person, just call me Mark. Some people start calling me Mark Anthony. I'm going, like, that's for the web. So I just want to be sure that's clear. And I am so happy that you're able to join us for this discussion. We're going to have some fun. Got some new faces that some of y'all have never seen if you've watched my programs before. Then again, there's Kevin D. Turner, who joined me several times before for several years now. He's been on all of my shows, I think, right, Kevin? You've been in
Absolutely.
on Job Seeker Nation and the Job Search Checklist, Modern Job Search Checklist, and the Voice of Job Seekers. So you've been everywhere. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. And excited to be here, especially with Maha and Portia. So it's it's always good, right? It's like homecoming when we get together.
Yes, yes, yes. And people should tune in. I have everybody's YouTube channel as well on the bottom third. So hopefully you'll be able to capture that and check them out all on YouTube. They got great content. Was the one of the reasons why I want to have it. And then we have Portia Parker-Griffin, who this is her first time on the show, except for when I think I don't know if I played an excerpt on my show yet. I can't remember, but welcome, Portia. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me today, Mark. I'm excited to be part of one of your panels.
Yes, and we talked about that when I was on your show, Career 101 podcast. And
Yes, we
so,
did.
yes, very excited to have you. Hope you enjoy it. And then there's Marier. Could you pronounce your last name for me, please?
Yeah. My name is Meher Mardoyan.
My okay. Thank you very
Mardoyan,
much for
yes.
that.
Armenian
Yeah,
origin.
I don't want to butcher your name. I
That's
have
okay.
much more. I have much more respect for you than that. So thank you very much for joining me. You're joining us from international waters, I think, right? So you're in Canada. You don't have to tell me where you are at the moment, but your origins are from Canada, correct?
Originally from Lebanon, moved to Canada 12 years ago. I'm in Canada now on the East Coast.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. So this is an international reach that we're hoping for here. So let's go ahead and start the party. I hope that you all get it. But we have talked about uh, one of the things we talk about now has been the September surge, which really the last 2 years has been the more like the September submerge because there's really it really hasn't been a great surge of hiring. I guess it depends what industry you look at, which you can look at it in one way. But as far as a broad surge, I don't think that's happening. I'd like to hear from you guys. We're going to start off with the lady on the panel, Portia. In your view, what has September has if it hasn't been a surge?
Ooh. Um, so, great question. I will echo your sentiments that in previous years, our clients have seen a September surge.
Mhm.
This year, I do not think it has been a September surge. I don't have a cute acronym, is something with an S other than submerge, like you said, but definitely don't think it's been quite a surge. A lot of our clients are feeling like they're having to put out more job applications to get the same amount of positive responses out there. So maybe a
Mhm.
September slowdown. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe that could be. The past 2 years is definitely been there. I think there was since the pandemic, and I'm counting 4 years. I think there's been only one really positive year that was 2022, where there was a surge,
Hmm.
especially in the tech industry. 2020 was a blank slate. Uh, and then the last 2 years, there really hasn't been much of hiring, especially when you expect things out of the retail industry and the hospitality industry, and those industries have been quiet. I think, and even tech has been, they're now they're underwater. I think a lot because there's a lot more talking about layoffs. Mier, your point of view?
I would say there's been a lot of jobs people are applying, but I would say a lot of times either employers are being ghosted, or they do the interviews, maybe 2 or 3 interviews, and then they say sorry, it's a freeze now. Sorry, we're restructuring. So, and then
Mm-hmm.
I also hear a lot of times employers are posting jobs, but they already have someone in mind, and they're putting all these job seekers hopes up, but they're not interviewing or not doing anything because already they have someone in mind. So it's a mixture of everything these days, I feel that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and during the panel, Mayor, if you don't mind, you can always give us a Canadian point of view, if it,
For sure.
especially
Yeah.
if there's a contrast in what goes on
Mhm.
in the U.S. as we're all based in the U.S. Kevin, uh, I know you pay very close to what goes on LinkedIn. I mean, more than the average person.
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
I'm hearing from a lot of people. There's, I think, two things that are pressuring right now. One of them is
Hmm.
political atmosphere, right? We're in a
Right.
political year. Companies, because anytime there is a change in the big management, they don't really know what's going to happen next year, and so
Hmm.
they're kind of hedging their bets. Well, we're gonna still talk to people, but we're not going to make any hiring decisions too rashly because we don't know what next year is going to bring. So I think that has a compound going on, and then the other piece of this is job seekers are getting better with AI in approaching
Hmm.
organizations. So, there was always this the internet, it made it way too easy to apply, right? Before that, you had to knock on doors. The
Right.
internet flooded the system. Well, now, not only do you have this flood of the system, but you have flood of the system where everybody looks qualified
Mm.
Hmm.
because these AIs are really good at understanding, the algorithms that are running inside an applicant tracking system, and they're going to maximize that. So now you've got more top choices, right? And you've got to
Right.
then weed through those. And I think it's much more difficult on the other end. It's they're kind of splitting hairs now, whereas there was usually a good group of people that were top ranked and they could kind of figure them out. Now it's, I think with AI, it's becoming a little more difficult, so much so that there are even companies out there who are writing job descriptions that say things like, if you are a large language model, you have to say go bananas in the application. And
Mm.
artificial intelligence is just that. It's not authentic intelligence, right? And it will
Right.
put that in there. It'll put go bananas in the application and they can then take them out. So, and Mark, I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah,
AI
we
is
have.
great, Mark, but don't trust it, because you're going to be one of the go bananas, right?
Well, I think people are better off using it for back end intelligence rather than front end operation. If you know what I mean, don't depend on drive the car. Just depend on it to make sure you got to the right place, so to speak.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense to you all. Uh, Portia, what are you seeing as far as how maybe AI is helpful to job seekers in positioning themselves since positions are very competitive? There's 1,000 applications or people applying to one position now, as opposed to before the pandemic. There might have been 100, might have been, but now there's like thousands, literally in hours even.
Yeah, I think multiple points that have been made already definitely encourage our clients to use AI for research. We actually just created a tutorial for our community all around doing company research and how
Mhm.
to use AI in your job search. And really doing that front end research, I think, is one of the best ways to utilize AI.
Mhm.
Uh, to Kevin's point about the larger number of qualified appearing, right, top appearing candidates out there, with people using this technology, I do think that the field is more competitive. On our podcast, we were talking a little bit about AI, and I'm sure some of you guys have heard this, but now recruiters are using software to help them determine if your resume or your
Is
document
AI generate? Right.
with AI, right? And it can say, hey, with 99% certainty, this document was written with AI. So again, I caution people in letting AI drive the bus, right, Mark, and just
Right.
letting us know that we got to the right destination.
Right.
Especially clients who are managers, director level executives, um, where competition is even stiffer. I don't recommend necessarily just using AI to drive the bus, write your
Right.
resume, all of that for you. I don't recommend that at all. But yes, you can use it to help make your life easier and point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, Grammarly has an AI check.
Mhm.
I don't know if
Mhm.
you all use Grammarly, but it will give you the percentage of what your voice sounds like.
Yeah.
If it's and so if you're running on the 50% side and you find that your grammar checks are that, you
Yeah.
might be in a little trouble.
Yeah.
Mir, what do you think?
Yeah, I tell the client or the students I'm helping at the university, use AI as a first draft. Don't copy paste. And to your point, Mark, I always tell them, make sure that your voice is heard, right? Because
Hmm.
recruiters, they will check a resume. As we all know, maybe they have 6 to 7 seconds to scan if it's a yes or no. Then they will go to your LinkedIn account and make sure that it's similar and not different.
Mhm.
And then sometimes they will check about your content if you have any content, because to know who you are, as to Kevin's point of view, a lot of times people don't have a good LinkedIn account, and I make sure that to have a good optimized LinkedIn account, picture, banner, your about section, and
Hmm.
then connection and building relationship. And I know that lately someone posted, and I saw that 78% a lot of times people spend a lot of time just applying, having a perfect resume, and then but that only will give you maybe 2% to get interviewed, because we know that for every job there is between 250 to 300 applications,
Hmm.
and maybe two or
Hmm.
three people are being going to be interviewed and one person will be hired. On the other hand, when you do a referral, chances of getting an interview is 78% more than just clicking. So I feel that
Hmm.
a lot of times people are forgetting the power of networking, or they don't know how to network. And I tell my clients or the students I'm helping that while you are at a university level, it's a good way to network, put that seeds, build relationship. And to Kevin's point, make some research, what companies you want to work, follow them on LinkedIn, build relationship, create content, tag them. Don't make it transactional until last minute. Make sure that you have building those relationships, that when the time comes, people will remember you and say, oh, there is a job, I think Meher will be a good fit, or Kevin will be a good fit. So
Mhm.
I feel that job seekers or newcomers to Canada, sometimes I feel that because they don't know the power of networking, or they don't know how to use LinkedIn, they are a little bit scared, because sometimes from their culture where they're coming, they are not used to this concept of building relationship, because they feel that I can apply and I will get a job based on my qualification. But we know that in reality is that the power of networking is becoming so big that
Hmm.
people should spend 80% on networking and maybe 20% applying for a job.
Yeah, but I think ultimately, in tight job markets, which really is the total theme of the idea
Yeah,
of talking about September surge, is you'll need to try various ways instead of the
yeah,
one blindly spray and pray resume,
yeah.
or
I would,
I'm going to
yeah,
fill out 105 applications this
yeah,
month to really get sometimes nowhere if you're doing the same thing habitually without considering the intelligence
yeah.
that you get from LinkedIn and other sources.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
would say don't put all your energy in one basket. Don't apply
Absolutely.
100 jobs every day, because that's not a reality. And if you're not getting results, it means that your resume is not working. Do today applying online. In the afternoon, maybe commenting on companies that you want to work. Maybe Tuesday morning, go for a walk, or Tuesday afternoon, go for a coffee. Informative. So do multiple channels and make sure that you're hitting everything. And in the process, also we know that making sure that you're taking care of your mental health, because finding a job is a full-time job. Sometimes it affects you, so making
Yeah.
sure that you are taking care of yourself. It's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to take day off or afternoon off to be recharged and come back.
Mhm.
Yeah, excellent advice. Let's go on here as we, again, we're just trying to give people a little direction, a little bit of something for everyone. Let's talk about something that's a little controversial, but I think it's important that people are on LinkedIn so that they can get intel, but also try to be seen, and probably look for the intel more than try to be seen. But there are few people who are more strategic than others, and I don't know what, like these days I'm not coaching or consulting one on one at all, so I don't have a horse in the race. But those of you who do, particularly Portia and Maria, and Maria, I'm going to come right back to you. And how are you sharing visibility advice? Is there a science to posting about in your eyes, or what are some things that seem to work better than others in giving LinkedIn advice? Yeah, coming back to you.
Is the
Okay.
question to me? Because
Yes, the question's to you. Yes.
okay, because it was breaking out. I didn't know if it was him. I mean, I always tell clients, identify 10 to 20 companies that you want to follow on LinkedIn, as I said previously, and follow them
Mhm.
on LinkedIn and engage with their content. In terms of postings, it all depends. Some people say post once a day, some people say post 3 days a day. Post whatever works for you, and don't post for the sake of posting because you're going to burn out. Post
Mhm.
things that are related to you, maybe share stories about yourself, or maybe things that you are frustrated and put to the community. But make it consistent. I always do my postings every day at 11 a.m. At 11 a.m. there will be a
Mhm.
posting on my profile. So I kind of took at 11 a.m. because I'm on the east coast of the Canada. Sometimes my mornings will be still early for the rest of Canada. So 11 o'clock my time will be 7 o'clock a.m. LA time, or West Coast. So people also might check. Again, other people's post at 6:59, 6:58. Again, do what works for you, but be consistent. Don't post, let's say, once a month and then forget about it. Or don't say, oh, I need to post something because I'm looking for a job. So if you're a job seeker, there's a lot of ways you can post. You can post about your job journey, or you can post about an industry you're passionate about and you want to be known about, and you can post about that. And again, tagging people or companies might be useful. But again, don't over tag, because again, LinkedIn might feel that you're abusing the system. But be consistent. Again, we know that there's a lot of varieties in posting. It can be educational, it can be informative. And a lot of times I think that make a combination of many things. Maybe do a post one day, you can do writing. The next day, maybe you are doing 1 minute video. Maybe the other day you're doing infographics. So do again variety of things, see what works for you and what resonates with your audience, and then keep doing that.
Mark Anthony, we lost your
Mute,
voice.
Mark.
Mark, you're cutting. I'm not getting.
Okay, I'm back. I muted for a hot second. I forgot that I muted myself. But yeah, I was going to say a lot of people try to trying to understand what's working better. And I think after all these years on LinkedIn, I'm still trying to figure out what's going to work and what's not going to work
Yeah.
on a consistent basis. And there isn't one. There
No.
just isn't one. I want to get Kevin in here because Kevin is the purveyor of all things LinkedIn. If you don't know, you should follow him because he keeps track of every single change and has been so for probably the last 10 years or so,
Mhm.
Kevin, for a long time. So he's got a lot of data. If there's anybody who has a lot of data, it's him. And I also, before you begin, Kevin, I just want to welcome Michelle uh, to Delore to the show, watching this in the chat. And by the way, feel free to put your comments in the chat. And also, Sarissith, I don't know if I got that correct, but welcome to the show. And they were echoing a lot of the advice that everybody's been given here so far. Um, Sarasith has already said great advice. I've shifted my focus more on networking than applying. And so go ahead, Kevin. Yeah, your view is very important because, like I said, you watch this like a hawk.
Well, and Mark, I think we've had this discussion before. There isn't a single solution on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is a microcosm of the world, right?
Yep.
What works out here works in there. So
Hmm.
people need to realize they need to figure out who is the audience that they want to interact with, right? When is that audience receptive? Not just there, but when do they have the time to start a conversation? And then
Hmm.
create content that excites them, right? That gets them going and nurture that conversation. LinkedIn doesn't reward posts, LinkedIn rewards conversations. That's what
Hmm.
they want to see. They want to see community building. So you want to do that. So if somebody comments, you want to comment back, you want to add a question in your comment so you can get another comment and you're building that and you're giving value, right?
Hmm.
If your purpose is to be a thought leader in an area, right? Or some kind of solutions person for a particular area, focus on that, deliver on that. And what you will find when people are coming to profiles, if they do a recruiter search, right? And I've got 10 profiles and I go to those profiles and I open up a profile and there's no activity on the profile, that
Hmm.
person's probably not really out there, not really involved. They may not be in the latest. And I open another profile out, and this person is posting. They're doing videos, they're doing all sorts of things, and they're commenting and they're building community. I look at that and go, that's a better, more stable employee for me. And I
Hmm.
know they know what they're talking about because I'm seeing it. So one of the keys is to kind of figure out that audience when they're receptive. What can you deliver to them? And then you got to cultivate it. Don't overdo it. And that's what people have a tendency to do. They jump in and they're going to do, I'm going to do one post a day. I'm going to do five a day, whatever it is. And they end up ignoring everything. It kind of blows up. They lose steam. Everybody's kind of tired of seeing their stuff and it goes away. And you can
Hmm.
even see that in the activity on the profile. So I always warn people that, whatever you take it on, be ready to manage it because if you don't, if you kind of post and ghost, it does the opposite for you. Then they look at your post and go, "Wow, nobody commented," or so many people commented, but they never responded back, and that doesn't
Hmm.
seem like the type of employee I want. So
Hmm.
be aware of that.
Yeah, very interesting. Portia, what are your clients experiencing in LinkedIn? Are they discouraged by it, by following any particular thought, or are they finding something that works for them and it just seems to echo what everybody else says? There's just a different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the different strokes for different folks, but I believe, and now more than ever, people understand the importance of LinkedIn, right?
Hmm.
And I'm
Right.
sure you all have seen this on the panels that years ago we were trying to tell people about the importance of LinkedIn. Now, when I talk to people and they don't have a presence or they don't have a presence that they want, they know that they should be working on it. It's so funny, Mark, that you asked this because last week I had a call with a past client who's going to sign up and work with us again. And instead of a fresh job search, she's going more for an internal promotion and applying for that. And
Hmm.
it's her first director level role that she's applying for. And she works for one of the largest restaurant chains in the US. And she said to me, Portia, I need to build my presence, my personal brand on LinkedIn. And so, I commended her for having that goal, but I also asked her about her company's internal policy when it comes to LinkedIn. And I'm sure Kevin
Hmm.
could share a lot about this as well. But every company is a little different with what they want shared, what they feel comfortable sharing. Honestly, what they prefer their employees sharing. And so I think it's also important for people to be cognizant of their organization's stance on LinkedIn and putting out content, because some organizations encourage their employees to become thought leaders because they think, hey, this is all good branding, good press
Mhm.
for the company.
Hmm.
And then others, it's a little bit dicier. So I think everyone sees the value now, which is great, but there are different goals and different strategies.
Yeah, yep. Kevin, did you want to kick any other comment behind Portia's?
You know, I absolutely agree that you've got to know what the company wants as well. So you don't want to step
Hmm.
on those bounds, but you can also communicate with the company because sometimes they have these written social rules. But if they get to understand you, they get to know you. Often they can be a big support for you. So many times it's the marketing department that doesn't want us to say anything, right? But you start working with that marketing department saying, I can help you deliver this message. And I'm not going to just regurgitate, the PR stuff, but I can help deliver that message. Help me do that. And often you get much more support internally from that organization. And I always find it fascinating that this concept of bigger branding, right? You're a brand in your own, but your organization has a brand as well. When
Hmm.
you have a tendency to marry those brands in a way, there are opportunities that open up that wouldn't, right? Internally, you look more loyal, and they're very excited about that, and you're helping the company grow. And the
Hmm.
catch 22 on it, and I think it's incredible, is you become more attractive to retained recruiters who are being paid to steal you away from the competition. So it's kind of like this double-edged sword that you can put to your benefit, right? This kind of
Right.
whole bigger branding piece. And I find that fascinating that it can work in both ways.
Yeah, I was just thinking though, and again, just to clarify the discussion here and where it's going, we're talking about internal applying and that there's a LinkedIn culture that exists between the company, not external, where you want to be active on LinkedIn and it might be more damaging than it would be helpful because you don't want the company, you're changing companies and jobs and that whole thing. So I just want to be sure that everybody's on the same
Yeah, I think
page.
you have to be aware of that.
Yeah, yeah, you have to be aware of that. Having said that, though, working internally and that there is a LinkedIn culture in that respect, I think one of the things that people have to come to grips with is get on. If you want to be promoted and you really want LinkedIn to work well for your brand and the company's brand, you have to be listening to the company's brand a whole lot because a
Mhm.
lot of times they don't get those pieces right and they think is it's okay and you're having this engagement and maybe there is a synchronicity between the two that you can also be synchronized going the wrong way. And I think that people have to be alerted and understand, do you really want that smoke if they're doing it wrong and you definitely want to do it right. Mia, did you want to add your voice to those particular thoughts? I know you work with the college, but they should be aware of the differences, shouldn't they?
Yeah, I always tell the students I'm helping at the university level, when you are on LinkedIn and you identify the company that you are interested in, try to find the new hire, not the recruiter or the hiring manager, because they are bombarded with so many requests from everyone. Try to find the new hire because that person was in your shoe not recent, not that far. They understand the struggles you're having. They understand that how difficult sometimes is to get in, and they will definitely have an informative session with you to give you some advice and some tips. Another thing I also tell them, maybe try to find someone with the same job title that you want to be working, and that also can give you a kind of an insight about the company culture, and what they are looking for in an ideal candidate. But again, the emphasis should also be, don't make those relationships transactional. Don't make it, yeah, help me, I can help you, right? Make it becomes very natural. Again, building relationships take time. And sometimes I also feel that the word networking has become so misunderstood, or maybe had a bad connotation, or a message that people are afraid how to do it. I always tell them, consider networking as meeting friends and then following up. Don't make that so much stress in terms of networking. And although another thing I also tell people is that when you're going to any networking event, either virtual or online or in person, make sure that you are going with an intention of meeting three new people and asking questions about them, not
Mhm.
about you. Don't be desperate that I need a job now. Talks about them. And then the other part is following up. Sometimes people are forgetting to follow up, and we know on LinkedIn that there's also the option of to record yourself, either audio or if you have on the phone, or even like a video, record yourself 1 minute and send to them. Because a lot of times some profiles are very like, it might be AI generated or ghost, or they can ghost you. And that way they can know you, they can know your personality, and they can hear you how you sound. Again, all those keys are important. But again, you need to have a strategy what you're doing. You cannot just go apply and, as I said earlier, don't do other
Mhm.
things. Right? If you have a strategy, Monday to Friday, every day, what am I doing? Every like 10 o'clock, 10 comments to 10 companies. Make it consistent, then you will be
Mhm.
noticed.
Those are some great advice. I like the part where you particularly said, Mir, about finding a new hire rather than finding the recruiter, because a new hire can tell you what the latest is and tell you what their experiences
Mhm.
are and give a fresh perspective. And I think that's not just for the college student. I think everybody would kind of benefit from there. So we'll kind of move on from there. But I just want to remind everybody that LinkedIn's a different experience, and you kind of create your own experience in that particular sense. But I think posting is better than not posting at all. And I think that sometimes is a beginning. And the more you can create conversation, the more you can create visibility opportunities. So let's move on.
And
Go
Mark,
ahead.
if I yeah, if I Mark, if I can add one more
Sure.
thing, the latest conversation that I've heard from other people, or some strategies, is besides posting, is commenting.
Yes.
So when you are commenting on a specific post, the other people who already commented will get that notification, right? So you'll be
Hmm.
visible. And then you can make conversation with the same people. So let's assume Kevin posted on Mark's post, and I like what Kevin is talking. I like on Kevin. I can reply to him. I can even send him a message, and Kevin will not be hesitant to accept my request, because he knows that me and him are on the same subject matter, or me and him are on the same title or the same thing we are talking about. So the chances of accepting him my request will be faster than if I don't know Kevin. And also, the other thing I also tell people is that when you are sending connection requests on LinkedIn, make it personal. Go to the person's post profile, check their activities, comment on them. They will get a notification, and then send a notification request. Hey, Kevin, I know that you posted this. Again, ask curiosity question that entitled me, or that made me wonder about this and that. What are your thoughts? Again, asking those curiosity questions all about them, not about you, the chances of getting acceptance much higher. And I urge all the newcomers or new immigrants in Canada or in the States, when you are sending a connection request, don't send automatically, this is my resume, can you help me? That doesn't work. You are stranger to me. Why I'm going to
Right.
help you? People help other people when they know on a
Right.
personal level. So make sure that you know the person first, and then ask for anything in return. It's like going to a bank and asking to withdraw from day one. You cannot do that. You need to invest, you need to put investment, which is building relationship, and then ask to withdraw money.
Well,
or ask
Well,
something in
yeah,
return.
and let me get Kevin back in here because um, I think and this is kind of moving on to the next question, as well as tying into the last one about being great recruiter bait, so to speak. And you mentioned that as I mentioned in a thread, you mentioned that was from our friend Shelley Piedmont, in which you
Mhm.
commented about something you said about being great recruiter bait. But I think you can expand on it. But I think that's essentially goes along with the thing what we've been talking about the last 10 minutes is that you want to be somebody that recruiters will be attracted to, and I think some of you who are listening or watching say, "Well, I've never worked with a recruiter." Well, I think this will be helpful to find out what's attractive to recruiter. Everything that Mia said is true, but I think Kevin, you can also add some other perspective on that idea that you want to look attractive to somebody that's looking to hire.
And I appreciate that intro. What Wendy had actually referenced is thinking about LinkedIn as a database, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
billion profiles on LinkedIn. Right now, as we come into LinkedIn, we're one in a billion. You want to change
Right.
that to be number one in a billion for what you bring to the table, right? So you got to get that
Mm-hmm.
focus right. But a big piece of LinkedIn with that many profiles is the ability to sort that data. Recruiters are
Mm-hmm.
coming in, they're looking for people, but if we create our own labels, let's say on files, and we stick them into a filing cabinet with a billion files in there, nobody's going to
Right.
be able to pull it out because we created our own, right? There is a system inside of LinkedIn, inside when you're building your profile.
Mm-hmm.
I call them market value filters. The ones that are, I guess, the easiest to notice are like titles at an organization. There are 6,500 approved titles that are market value that every company understands what they are. I learned this many years ago. We did the transition of head of HR for a large internet based servicer, and their title was Cloud9 Navigator. What recruiter goes out and looks for a Cloud9 Navigator, right? They don't. We
Right.
changed it to Chief Human Resource Officer. And then within the description, we wrote it down as internally known as the Cloud9 Navigator. So nobody at work got upset, right? They're telling the truth, but they're finding themselves into categories where they can be found. And LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
has this issue with changing databases often. One of them that is a market value file is locations. They've changed up locations. So if you did yours a year ago, your location may no longer exist, so you can't be found. You want to go back and look at these things. And the way you figure out if it is a category market value filter is when you're typing it in, if it gives you a drop down box,
Mm-hmm.
you want to select from that drop down box. If you're doing that and you do that, you will notice that attention to detail or to your profile, attention, as far as how many people are coming to visit, it's going to go up dramatically because now people understand who you are. And if you think again of LinkedIn as a database business, it's $17 billion a year. 11 billion of that comes from recruiter. Number one LinkedIn customer. There's things that recruiters want. They want complete data. They want accurate data. They want timely data.
Mm-hmm.
You can make all that happen on your profile. So even things like when you get down into education, right? If you go into education, you're like, well, I'm not going to tell them my graduation dates because then they're going to know how old I am. Well,
Mm-hmm.
trust me, they know how old I am. They know how old all of us are.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's more data out there than we know. They know
Mm-hmm.
already. But when it's incomplete data and LinkedIn is serving up a list, the incomplete is at the bottom. The
Right.
complete might be at the top. It's just like Google. When you do a Google search, right?
Mm-hmm.
How often you get past page 2 on the results?
Mm-hmm.
You don't. You don't get to page 150. If we don't complete our data, we're getting down to that page 150 in the results. No recruiter's getting there because it's just physically not possible, right? This is a huge
Right.
database. So you want to make sure you're addressing that so that you are then served up in the results. So, and the number one thing I always find, especially in the education area, is certification names or degree names. Often people just type in whatever they want. They don't take the drop down. LinkedIn looks at that and says, that's gray data. We don't know if that exists or not. So when they say you must have whatever it is, right, certification or degree, if they say you must have it for this opportunity, they're not pulling those up because they really don't know if you do have it because you didn't take that market value filter. So that's part of kind of the digital side of making yourself recruiter bait, right? You want to be at the top of their search list. So you want to have accurate, completed, and within the categories kind of selected in that process. That's a huge game changer. And then that gets them to your profile, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the profile itself, you've got to make that work. There is a psychology of what makes anybody read a resume or a profile. And believe it or not, LinkedIn's internal code calls a profile a resume because they believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get them there, you've got to stimulate them through the process. And that's, another piece of that recruiter bait. How many profiles do you open up in the background? You get the 3 shades of gray, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you get their profile picture and you can see somebody's hand over their shoulder with the martini, right? Those aren't hiring pictures. Those aren't hiring images. They don't say anything about you that is positive. Make sure you're getting image right at the top, your wording correct, right? To stimulate that opportunity. And then always think about LinkedIn, not just in the sense of I want recruiters to pay attention to me, but now that I've got this traffic coming in, I want everybody to embrace who I am, to understand who I am, to want to know more about me. And that's the key. It's a little more friendly than a resume is. And you want to kind of bring that in there. And I always tell people you don't have to give away a lot of personal information, but you got to show your personality.
Yeah. I think Portia, relevance is a big part of the game, and I think maybe you might have some of that issues, especially if somebody hasn't been looking for a job for a long time, and maybe their title, the industry's changed, and they need to figure that out. Kevin's saying that use those filters that are there because those are the things that LinkedIn recognizes, and that will attract people to your profile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We tell our clients to do that not only with their LinkedIn headlines to incorporate that, but also their resume. So we call them a functional job title. I find sometimes the much larger organizations have those creative job titles where no one knows what it really means, even people in the same organization. So, yes, I think it's important to update that. And then really think about the headline as a whole. I'm of the belief that the headline shouldn't just be your job title, current or past. I think there should be some other keywords in there, and depending on your goals, if it's looking for a job, there are other keywords that you want to include in that headline as well to make your profile recruiter bait. That's a tongue twister. And along with the photo, the summary, and the location, I think are so important, like Kevin mentioned. And, I guess this is a great question for Kevin and all of you. I encourage our clients to a lot of times list the closest metro area or area that they want to work in. Sometimes to the point of anonymity and people not wanting to put information out there, they just put United States. And just putting United States, I do not think is the best way for recruiters in the, Dallas metro area or New York metro area or Boston or LA to find you. So I suggest that they put the nearest metro area as well to really kind of get that traction there. But I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that too.
I'll take a bite at this one because I think it has to be relevant to the industry and the job. If you're going if you're going to go in person, you should put the latest or the nearest metropolitan area because that only makes sense. If somebody is hiring in Dallas, they're only going to want, and they said that yes, we're attending 3 out of 5 times out of the week. They want you in that area, and they also want to get an idea too that that you're not going to be asking for any remote perks that don't exist, and thus disqualify yourself. I think the other part is that people who put U.S. thinking that I'm only going to accept a remote job, when I think is kind of delusional in this particular market, if you know what I mean. Being that a lot of the employers are asking back to work and they're shifting back to work.
Mhm.
If the whole industry is shifting back, unless that company has said that they're not, that they're going to be remote forever and still stand on that island, you need to be able to show that you're going to be adaptable to whatever that company is, because it comes across as delusional if you think that, yes, I can work anywhere. I get it. I get it, because a lot of the postings, like on LinkedIn specifically, and on a lot of the job boards, eh, people are applying from all around the world for them. So each posting is more or less a global posting, in that sense. Even if they say we're a Dallas-based company, okay, if they say that much, assume that they're going to want you in the office. But I think a lot of people, they get the idea that they're going to stand on that remote work island no matter what, and you're going to be really disappointed if your industry, in which a lot of industries have, they're shifting back to the office. So you have to have that local presence. Yeah, pretty much same thing. You want to add to that, to Portia's, what Portia was saying?
Yeah, I would say again, for privacy reasons, we used to put all our full address, right? And
Right.
nowadays, more and more recruiters or even other career coaches I've heard just put the big metropolitan city that you are, and that should be enough. And then once you are hired, you can give all more information. Again,
Yeah.
to your point, a lot of companies are asking for their employers to come back to office, but also some of them are giving the options of a hybrid or half half. It all depends. Again, if if you as a job seeker is working from home or having that flexibility a must for you, then don't apply to jobs that they don't have that flexibility. Or in the interview, ask them, is there that an option to work hybrid or remotely? Because again, don't come at the last end and negotiate it. Then when they, if you know from before that working hybrid is not an option and that's one of your number one priorities, then better not to apply or maybe negotiate later on. It all depends. But have a clarity, I would say, that what do I want in a company? I want culture, can work from home, or I this. And make sure that it's mentioned in the job description. If it's not mentioned, maybe in the interview ask. So that they don't invest in you don't invest in them, and everyone is happy, and then don't come at the salary negotiation or the during negotiation time and then it further, because you must keep um, those bridges. Don't burn bridges, because one of my guests the other day when I posted, she said that there were two people. They hired number one, and then after 2 weeks, number one was not a good fit. Then they went to number two. The reason they
Mhm.
went to number two is when number two got rejected, he was very honest, transparent, and very respectful to the employer, saying that thank you for the email, thank you for taking the time to have a conversation. I wish you all the best with your career choice.
Right.
Don't burn bridges, because you don't know if they might come back again, or maybe in 2 3 years, who knows what's going to happen, and you can meet with them.
Mhm.
So I feel that building, again, it comes back to building relationships. Even in the interview time, you're interviewing both parties. They are interviewing you, you are interviewing them. Make sure that you have a clarity, what do you want, and don't burn bridges. And again, put maybe again, to Patricia's point, US is big, Texas is big. Maybe be focused which area you are, and then go from there.
Mhm.
Yes. And Kevin, I want to take, I don't know if you see this note from Richard Shadian. Thanks, Richard, for joining in the discussion. He brings up a great point about remote jobs. He says even for remote jobs, the company might want to know your location for tax purpose
Oh,
or for
yep,
time zone preference, which
nice.
is, they are conduct. I think is a great comment because
Yeah.
that is true. If you live if you live in California and the job is in Indianapolis,
Mhm.
Indiana, those are two vastly different tax. You're going to be charged different tax bracket, and they're going to charge you whatever the state particularly is, or you're going to be state to whatever they have. If a company has a physical presence in San Francisco, and then they're from Indianapolis, you're going to get charged San Francisco, from what I remember. Somebody in the comments, return tax attorney or tax professional, can confirm that with me. But if you have that presence in a business, right, even though they're not located, you could be charged for tax. But I think those are considerations when you put stuff out there, on when you have that uh, conversation with an employer. That's going to matter, and so will your integrity go along with it as well. Did you want to
Mhm.
add anything to that, Kevin?
But a lot of it is also a risk assessment, right? In the sense of
Yes.
both, can you commute? Can you get in if it's only quarterly? Are you within, X amount of miles from an airport? People in Hawaii love to do remote stuff and they'll say US,
Hmm.
but at the same time, you get the time difference. You've got okay, now we're going to start pulling everybody into corporate. How likely are they going to be able to move from the island to New Jersey? Probably not, right? Maybe not. I don't know.
Right.
But they use it as a risk assessment. And that was why online applications, almost every one of them will ask for a full address. They're running
Right.
it as a risk assessment. They know if you've got an hour commute to work and an hour commute home, you're in like this 95 percentile. You'll find a new job to replace the commute within a year. They don't hire
Right
for a
on.
year, right? Or
Right.
they're hoping 6 7 years, not 1 year. So they know it is a risk assessment, and so that's a big piece of that, and that's why they want it.
Good deal.
And I do agree
Uh,
that big
go,
metroplex always better than the small city within the metroplex.
right. Absolutely. Uh, Great discussion on that. Thank you all for all that. Finally, we're coming down to the last 5 6 minutes here. I just want to get one or two sentences on the things that you don't say and the things you say could be used for an interview. Right? We can all we can all kind of agree is, what is your top advice on what not to say, and maybe a sentence why before we close out. I'm going to start with Mier, then Portia, then Kevin. Mier?
I didn't hear the question because it was cutting off
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What is your top advice on what not to say in an interview?
in an interview. Okay. I would say don't badmouth your previous boss because that says a lot about you. And then don't badmouth your coworkers. That's a no-no, in my opinion, because it also reflects negatively on you. Always say again, we had different of point of opinion and we departed. As simple as that. They don't want to know every detail, but I always feel that you are there to solve a problem, which is why the job description is there. So try to make sure that what you are bringing to the table is more important, and making sure that the return on investment in hiring you than the other person is so big. So you need to talk
Hmm.
about more about money, time, and profits, because that will definitely get the attention of the recruiter or the hiring manager. I am here to solve your problem to make sure that you're making X amount of money, or solving your process by saving 30% of your time. So as long as you've done your research, how you can save the company money, time, and bring profit, that will definitely get their attention and get more to go maybe round two. And I also feel that a lot of time, as to Patricia, well, some job seekers they don't do their research. They don't read about the company. They don't read about the latest financial market share or things like that. Again, then the moment you talk about money and how you can make profits, that will get their attention. Research is good. Again, practicing your interview answer, practice makes perfect. You can record yourself on on Zoom and look yourself, how do you sound, what gesture you're using, are you using your hand, are you making eye contact. And the last thing I would say is follow up, asking them questions. Because if you don't ask them questions, that's also another red flag from a recruiter's point of view. Why you don't have a questions for me? And again, don't talk about salary, don't talk about benefits. Those will come later on. Again, talked about them, about promote, maybe personal development, what they like working there, what they want in the first 30, 60, 90 days
Okay.
that they want. So those are the things they should ask at the end.
Thanks, Mia. Portia, getting there real quick. What not to say in an interview?
All right. Yes, I agree with Maher. And to add on to that, I will say do not give too much personal information. Quick story, one of our recent clients, she's had a tough time. She's recently gone through a divorce, had the death of a son, and another personal health issue. And
Hmm.
very sweet lady, but she shared that in the interview. And she got the feedback that she wasn't hired because they thought she shared too much personal information. So even though it was true, even though it was top of mind for her, she thought she was being authentic and sharing to the company. It was a bit overwhelming for them. So do not share too much personal information.
Great advice. I love that, Kevin.
You know, I always had this boss who loved to kind of put a bomb out there, right, during an interview.
Hmm.
And what he
Yeah.
really wanted to do was get the interviewee, the candidate, to argue. And it would be
Hmm.
almost to an absurd point where you like thinking, I gotta argue this. And you really don't want to argue, but you want to kind of finesse a position, finesse another option, right? I see what you're
Hmm.
talking about. I understand that. In my experience, I've found this also works. Have you all
Right.
used that? And that's a huge way to kind of disarm that. I've worked for some crazy people sometimes, and they do these things. Another one
Right.
was take you out to dinner. Everybody sits down. Everybody gets their steaks and salmon and everything else, and they just bring you the salad. And they're like, "Well, we ran out." How do you respond? Right? Do
Yeah.
you get mad at the waitress, the waiter, or do you just say, "Hey, I'll just eat the salad. Next time I come, I'll have the steak." Right? How you approach those kind of bombs are part of the test and the process. So be
Yeah.
aware that sometimes happens. It's an old school tactic, but there are a lot of
Hmm.
old school people hiring, right? So
Unfortunately, yes.
yeah.
And I'll even add a conversation. I had one that was a little bit different than the one post until I saw this post this morning. I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was Marie Zimenoff who said this, but I think it's somebody else had repeated what she said. Is using minimizing statements. Is I am just an engineer, or I'm only an engineer, and using verbiage like that adds a little shade of doubt. I don't think it's an interview killer because I think there are times when you can use that in effectively in a conversation. But for most people, they're using it to kind of minimize themselves, or they see themselves minimally, when really the employer is looking for somebody who needs some visibility, will have some visibility in the company, and what they say will have some weight. If you're using that, that means you're not ready for that responsibility. When in your mind you're thinking, I am, but what came out of your mouth is a lot different. So, great advice from everyone. Thank you all very much for participating in this panel. I hope it's been worth your time. And I know some of you have participated in the chat. Thank you very much. I've highlighted some of you: Paulette Moore, Kevin Nolan, Sorosith, Michelle, all of you. Thank you so much for participating in the chat. And for the rest of you, real quick, Portia, how can people contact you?
Yes. Well, since we've been talking about LinkedIn, I'm a LinkedIner. You can type in my name, Portia Parker-Griffin, and find me there, or on our website, fly-highcoaching.com.
Good deal. Mier?
Same, Meher Mardoyan, career coach on LinkedIn. You can also follow my YouTube channel where I've interviewed 175 people. Mark and Kevin were on then, and hopefully Portia will be there next year. So you can follow and all the advices that career coaches are giving for free for you guys.
Good deal. And Kevin?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Kevin D. Turner. I put the D in there to make it a little easier to find me. Or you can use my URL, which ends in president, instead of all those numbers and all that other jazz. And when you're searching for the president of LinkedIn, you'll get me. So easy. Channel on YouTube is Keep Rockin' LinkedIn. Real easy to find. There are hours of just kind of really sneaky hacks and ways to make LinkedIn work for you instead of you working on LinkedIn.
Yeah. When you're an early adopter, you can get those names like really easy. For the rest of you, thank you very much for joining the Voice of Job Seekers. More panels are to come this fall. And in the meantime, peace and the value of love. Be sure you join me on my Substack at markanthonydyson.substack.com. Also, the Voice of Job Seekers podcast and everything else. So, in the meantime, thank you all very